Here's the first piece. Men and women are different, but not that much. Regardless of your gender, skin color, whatever, inside most of you are more alike than not. Every single man in this room is a transgender. That's biology, guys. You start off in the womb as female. You develop different plumbing later on, right? So in order to understand some of the things that we're going to cover, you need to tap into your inner woman, right? Some of you ladies may have to have a penis transplant for the duration of the training just to understand how the other half lives, right? Yes, that's my politically incorrect humor, right? Keep, in terms of, we are recording this session, so there is no recording or camera work. You can take pictures, like still pictures and stuff, but no videotaping, please, while we're in the rooms. This is stuff that's, again, private, and we don't really want this stuff circulating out in the world. This is one of those places where you have to know, you have to dare, you have to keep your fucking mouth shut. Okay? You don't want people to know you know this, because it will change how they perceive you. Okay? Some assholes didn't learn that for 10 years. Because I would go and I would tell people all these cool covert hypnosis and speed seduction and double your dating shit I would learn, or Marknosian bullshit or whatever. And I would say, and look what I can do. Oh, really? Are you doing it now? Right? Right? Then, of course, every now and then I wouldn't, I would forget that, but then I would do it and it would work, and I'd say, look what I just did to you there! And I'd go, what? Right? Don't be a dipshit. Right? It's okay to learn these skills, but there is a stigma attached to them. Right? Not your fault. Just like I say, don't call your hypnosis hypnosis. Hypnosis doesn't care what you call it. Why should you? Right? You'll eliminate so much baggage by calling what you're learning something other than attraction, mastery, or whatever word we put to it, right? Charisma and social influence sounds really cool, right? Being an influencer, whatever name you want. But again, don't tell people that you're applying a system or a technology, which brings us to another thing I need to cover. Systems at their core are generalizations. All systems at their core are generalizations, which means they work on the majority of the people, the majority of the time. But for everything I teach you, there will be an exception. Functionally speaking, it is more practical and pragmatic to focus on what's the same and get awesome and unstoppable at that. Relegate that to unconscious competence rather than consciously competent. So you have the bandwidth and the attention span and the observational capacity to focus on the differences. Things that deviate from the norm so you can figure out how to adapt. It's all about adaptation. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. Remember, this is about creating relationships. Very powerful relationships. It really doesn't matter the context, because everything from this particular class generalizes down. But the core, the currency of all relationships is attention. Which means you've got to manage attention. Which means you have to be willing to do what? You got to pay it, for sure. But you also have to attract it. You must attract attention. Okay? And that means the wrapper has to match the package. You understand? We do judge books by their cover. A lot. Now, when you're dealing with men who are primarily visually oriented, sexual and reproductive value-driven creatures, you have to really emphasize and tighten up your visual stimulation and attraction game. Men are hardwired that way. You're not going to beat millions of years of biology. If you ignore it, you say it shouldn't be that way, so I'm not going to do it, then you get what you deserve. Okay? I don't make the rules, I just exploit them. I just report them. Right? So visual stimulation is critical for both genders. It just continues to be important for males longer. When a female judges you, they're going to judge you for different things. When you're dealing with females, details matter. Details matter. They're going to look at your shoes, they're going to look at your nails, they're going to look at your hair, and they're going to make distinctions about the life you lead based on those details. Okay? They're going to look at the style of clothing that you're wearing and assign an archetype to you. Rock star. Cell phone person, right? Desperado, cowboy, right? White knight. There's different archetypes that you want to fit, because the moment you fit an archetype, all the neuroassociations that Hollywood and romance novels and all these other things have programmed into people now get attached to you. Understand? Okay. You've all seen my Captain Jack the Hypnotist video, or acupuncturist video, right? The idea is to build a persona, an archetype. That is the you want to be. that is uniquely attractive to the type of woman you want to attract, right? Remember, the devil's in the details, right? The jewelry, the shoes, the hair, the grooming. They will judge the kind of person you are by how groomed you are, right? Now, grooming could be, if you're a biker, you're a Harley dude, that, you know, again, if that's the kind of person you're interested in attracting, then those are the things that you have to modify. Just remember, you're all different, right? I would suggest that you guys, as an exercise in expanding your horizons, date off type. Most of us have a set of characteristics that kind of do it for us. Start dating people who don't have it, and see if you discover something about a person that you might not have seen otherwise, right? Women are primarily, and again, going back to the reptilian brain, men are driven to sort for visual stimulation. They're looking for people with high reproductive value. Let me repeat that. High reproductive value. What does that mean? They're healthy. How young or young looking are they? Hip to waist ratio, breast size, curves, okay? Men cannot not look at them. It's hardwired in. So if you're in a relationship and you see your guy's kind of getting magnetic eyes and some shit, chances are he doesn't even realize he's doing it. Okay? Man can look at a woman 4 blocks down the street and instantly understand her hip to waist ratio, whether she's going to be a good mother, whether she's healthy, whether she's desirable. Women will look and they will see the details, the hair, the nails, the shoes. They will make an assessment of your survival potential. Survival potential. This is the reptile. Females are sorting for males, to use a binary system, who have high survival potential. They have access to resources, they're physically strong, they're physically healthy. They demonstrate desirable characteristics a female might want in her offspring. Okay? One of the little known characteristics of the reptile brain is actually probably one of those bridges between the reptile brain and the mammalian brain, is this concept of social status. I always tell people, women are looking for alpha males, right? What they're looking for is someone who exerts dominance within a social hierarchy. Why? Because biologically speaking, these people are usually the strongest. They're the healthiest. Okay? Therefore, if a female can create an alliance with that particular individual, she has a high probability of giving birth to healthy young who have a good chance of making it through to adulthood and then perpetuating the cycle, right? Remember, regardless of what you might believe or what you might want, your genes don't go to heaven. Okay? All your genes care about is transmission. Right? Your spirit goes to heaven, the genes fucking stay here. Okay? They just keep going. And everybody in this room is here because your ancestors successfully passed the genes forward. Right? Sometimes you meet people out on the street, you wonder how that happened. But, right? Which just goes to show God has a fucking sense of humor. Right? But again, so questions on that. Yes, I wish it were different, but it isn't. Now, the way we go about satisfying those needs, those desires and things of that nature, change slightly depending on cultural norms. They change slightly depending on the zeitgeist of a particular area, or in some cases, the technology being used, right? You know, one of the most disturbing things for me is I just recently started, first of all, I started uploading things to YouTube in 2012, right? Just because I had this huge archive of video that was just sitting there. I kept telling myself I was going to make products out of it, I was going to do all the other things, and then I would look at all these massive files, all the amount of editing that I would have to sit in front of a computer to do, and say, oh, fuck it, right? It's one of the reasons I haven't written books yet, but now it looks like books are coming whether I want them to or not, because it has to be done. But one day I just said, you know what? Be honest with yourself. David, you are never going to do anything with these fucking videos. But they're just sitting there. I've got literally 50 hard drives filled with David. Only like a tenth of them are actually released on YouTube. Okay? So I just said, well, screw it. I'm not doing anything with it. Let's see what happens when I upload it to YouTube. Boom. Little things all of a sudden take your life in a completely different direction. I have no idea why I was telling you this. But it was interesting at the moment. I chased a squirrel. And interestingly, one of our top videos was our attraction videos, right? So, but we have to understand that we have to start with the reptile brain. Your genes don't go to heaven regardless of what you might believe, right? The genes stay here, right? If you haven't picked up Reptile by Don Keenan and David Ball, highly recommend you pick that up. It's not cheap, but worth it. If you want to understand the dynamics of the reptile brain. Neuromarketing is another great body of information that will teach you how to present to the reptile brain. Okay?
What's the name of the author?
Don Keenan and David Ball. Don Keenan. Neuromarketing, go to salesbrain.com. And I forget the I think it's Chris something or other, but if you go to salesbrain.com and neuromarketing.com, These are some good sources, right? But one of the things, the first thing they're going to teach you is that the reptile brain is a visual creature. And it sorts for contrast. Your reptile brain sorts for what's familiar. It only knows two things. It's either familiar or it isn't. It's either a friend, something that's fuckable, or food, right? And that's pretty much what the reptile brain is saying. Can I fuck it? Can I feed on it? Right? Or do I fight it? Now, little new caveat. I was spending, when I was boning up for this class, no pun intended, I spent some time going back over my original materials, things I've learned since then, and I actually spent a lot of time on, you guys know I've been spending a lot of time on Clubhouse, which to me I think is going to be the next version. Anybody who lives in California probably remembers an organization many years ago, I think it was the late 90s, early 2000s, called the Learning Annex. I think for a lot of people on social media that Clubhouse is going to have the potential to be a Learning Annex type of an environment. I'm on there. I've got about 600 or 700 followers now. I'm a baby when it comes to that stuff. I believe in anti-social media. But anyway, but I was spending a lot of time in chat rooms being run by female dating coaches. Okay, because inevitably what's gonna come up at some point is, when is it okay to have sex? Is it okay to have sex in the first date? Is it, some of the reference materials I'm going to share with you say you got to make a guy wait 3, 6, 7 months. Jump through all these hoops before you have sex. And different rules apply depending on what category you sort people into. Here's the one thing I want to just get this out of the way. There is no consensus amongst dating coaches about how long is the right amount of time to wait. Many of the dating coaches I was listening to, and I was playing fly on the wall, right, saying they haven't seen any difference in the quality of relationships from having sex on the first date or waiting 6 months. There doesn't seem to be a direct correlation between the quality of the relationship and when you have sex. Right? Now, some books will say, like the one I reference in it's called Pussy Power by Cara King, right? Which again goes to this concept of vagina value, which goes to reproductive value, right? And you're going to hear me talk in some very politically incorrect ways. It's necessary, right? Because we need to really understand this from a primal level, okay? Women are constantly indoctrinated into this belief that their vagina is the most powerful, desirable part of them on the planet, and people will do anything to get in it. And for the average human being, that's true enough to be true. For you to be effective in your dating life, to be effective in attracting and working in attractivity, you got to turn that off. You got to turn that off, okay? In fact, if you want to be able to be more sexual with a woman, you have to take sex off the table, completely, okay? So men are driven primarily by the need for reproductive value and sexual fulfillment first. Women are primarily emotionally driven. The sex comes after you've given them you've fulfilled the emotional needs that they're looking for, you've matched their checklist and values to intimacy, things of that nature. Then the sex comes. Ladies, if you want to be successful in your dating career, you have to turn your emotions off. That sound remarkably familiar? Men's Achilles' heels is their sex drive. They become amazingly manipulatable in the throes at the mercy of their sex drive. Women, emotions. So what does that mean? Control your fucking state. Right? Because these are the things that will make you do stupid shit. Make you agree to things that aren't in your best interests. Understand? You got to take that desire off the table. You got to take that need for emotional fulfillment off the table and parse it out in smaller chunks rather than giving people everything right off the bat, because usually men can't handle that level of emotional flooding. It triggers them and they run screaming. Okay? And it's becoming more and more of a problem, especially as women take on more and more alpha characteristics and they become more assertive and dominant and progressive and forward in their attempts to pursue people. Men, by and large, do not do intimacy well initially. They need trust in a person before they are willing to divulge their innermost secrets. They need to know they can trust you. One of the ways that they do that is through sex.